Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the New York Downtown Clown Revue, March 15th, 2010 edition. I'm joined... No, I'm never going to be able to say it. I'm joined here today. Yeah. Okay, focus, right. I'm joined here today with the featured performer, Matt Mitler.
Thank you, Chris. Hi.
So, we're going to ask him a few questions about his clowning and about his clown career and some of his work. Talk about some of your training or some of your influences as a performer or as a clown.
Okay. My original training was in fine art and then psychology and psychotherapy, and from there into experimental theater, which led me into theater in general, and I joined a theater company which had a mime part to it. So I was trained in mime and commedia as part of this company. And then from there I became very interested in work of a physical nature, which then took me eventually to Poland to work with Growtowski and his company, and other people that were more in the realm of physical theater than clowning per se. So it was that type of theater.
Has your background, your studies, how has that influenced your work? Your official studies, not your artistic, but your fine art and psychological studies.
Well, fine art was the thing about fine art for me was just learning how to see, becoming sensitive to what is received through eyes. So there was something about that, about seeing, which I think comes into play in performing and as a director, certainly. And then at a certain point in my teens, I began to work as an art therapist with handicapped kids. So that was an interesting shift from doing art for art's sake, let's say, for art as service. And that led me into, when I started doing theater and mime and clowning and things like that as service. So that's the art and angle of it. And I still like to do art. I like doing graphics for stuff. And psychology, psychotherapy, that was more of salvation in a way. I mean, there's an interest, but it was also about just trying to save myself. And at a certain point, I found a theater group that was working with kind of Gestalt principles. And I went, wow, what the hell is this? This is really amazing, because it was work on transformation of oneself, finding fears and barriers and breaking through them. So I began to see that there was a way of doing theater that would be therapeutic. So
awesome. Two things about what you just said. First of all, I think there's a quote. I think it's from De Croo, who says, "If mime had a sister, it would be sculpture, not dance or anything like that." So I thought that was an interesting thing. That there's a lot of these physical performances come from that sort of art.
And sculpture was actually one of my when I got more into art, drawing and sculpture were the places where I began to focus. And the other place where sculpture, I think, is really becomes something visceral in theater is lighting. And lighting for me is very much like you're sculpting the space. You're working with the light. And I always find that very interesting. The sculptural aspect of that.
Awesome. Yeah. And and then going back to the idea of service, I know that's a big part of what Dzieci does. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, Dzieci is a theater company that started about 11 years ago and came out of a workshop that I was doing at the Michael Chekhov studio with a student who said, "I want to work with this all the time." And I said, "Well, so do I. But it just can't happen in America." I had some groups in Europe for a number of years, and I said, "It's America. People don't do that." And she said, "What do you need?" I said, "I need a group." She said, "What if I form a group?" I said, "Go ahead." So she brought a group together, and eventually, people started to get serious about it, and we chose the name Dzieci because I did a lot of study in Poland. I mean, mime also, studied with Teatr Guest there. But experimental theater, Growtowski, people like that, and I wanted to pay homage to Growtowski in Poland, so we chose the name Dzieci, which means children. So it's Theater Group Dzieci, and the essence of Dzieci's work, or the core of it, is work of service. We work in hospitals, we work with kids, we work with dying people, we work with every kind of disability, handicap, disadvantaged population there is. And that's the inner training, so that if we can approach performing on stage with the same sense of service, with the same sort of inner integrity that we have in the hospitals, then we're working in the way we want to be working, the way we choose to work. one of the things about the alternative spaces is that we often don't practice in the space beforehand. It's like let the space just inform us. And a lot of our pieces are there's a lot of improvisation to them. I mean, something might be set, like the text is set in Macbeth, but nothing else is set,
right.
Even who's playing what roles. In Fool's Mass, there is no text, it's just songs, and the songs are a certain order, it follows the Mass, but everything else is fair game. And someone can be in the show, in the company, and then they move off to Europe or something, they come back 5 years later, they can be back in the show again without rehearsing.
Right.
They might have to do different jobs, like carry the wine or carry the bread when they did something before, but everything changes because of that. I mean, they know the music, they know what has to happen, but we're all reacting. And the thing about performing in a sacred space like a church is that it has such an energy. And plus, this something real does happen there, and people believe in what happens there, that you're instantly humbled. So I remember the first time we worked in a church, and every time we work in places like St. John the Divine, you just walk in and go, oh my God, we're going to do this here. How dare we? And how can we possibly fulfill something here? Yeah. So being daunted is a good place to be. Clowning, you really want to have that bar be something almost out of reach, or maybe out of reach.
Yeah. I did a clown show based on my Japanese sword training, like stuff I really believed in, like 100%. I was really nervous about my senseis finding out about it. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want them to take it the wrong way. Some of them did, but I thought, gosh, it might sound so horrible. Like I'm doing a clown show on this stuff that we really believe in. And so I'm just. I guess
how did they feel? What did they say?
Well, the people who saw it loved it, but I was still so nervous. But I think that's sort of the question.
This thing about daring.
Yeah.
I mean, when we first did Fool's Mass at the Abbey, I said, I had a strong relationship with them for a number of years, and we never performed for them. And I said, we should try this piece, Fool's Mass. We were interested in it. I said, they may never want to speak to us. We might be excommunicated from this Abbey. It's like, oh my God. And they were so. But I said, we have to do it, because if they don't like it and if they hate us for this, we need to know that we've crossed the line. We're not fulfilling something. Right. We're not serving what we think we're serving. We're deluded. And they loved it, and they were embracing us, and we were crying. Yeah. And we also did the piece. We now do it every year at United Cerebral Palsy, and it was a sort of similar thing, because we're playing these village idiots and these people that are disabled. And I said, we have to be able to do this for a disabled population, and risk this. Yeah. Because again, if they find it offensive, we are not serving. Again, we're deluded. Right. And I remember we walked into the room there, and they looked at us like, like we know you. And again, before we'd even started the piece, we just entered the room. When we entered in character, we all started to cry. Yeah, unreal. And we were weeping through that entire piece. And at the end, they wanted to get up and do some of the piece with us, and they embraced us as we were not making fun of them. We were, praising them. And, it was such an amazing thing, but we had to risk it. We had to try that. Well, I think we should wrap it up. Thank you so much for talking with us today. This is, I understand, the final. Yeah, this is the final interview, and I am very honored to be here with Chris. I was in one of the earlier incarnations of the club in the little downtown St. Mark's. So congratulations on a very successful run. Very good. Well, thank you so much. Do you have anything you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about? Look up dziecitheatre.org, and it's THEATRE, the European way. We'll be at the Psalm in Philadelphia April 10th and 11th. On April 10th in the evening, we're doing Macbeth, which is our version of Macbeth where everyone changes parts from scene to scene, and no one knows who's going to do what part at any given time. And on Sunday morning, we're doing our Fool's Mass. Excellent. As a morning Mass. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. It was really fascinating. Thank you. All right.